Okay, so welcome to the quick introduction to Canva, which is a free graphic design website tool that you can use privately or maybe with some type of business, small business, nonprofit, basically any place that you might need to make, graphic designs, but especially like social media posts, even videos or slideshows. You can even do like resumes in it. We'll see in a minute all like the types of things that you can do in it. But basically, you can do almost any type of design in Canva. The one thing it isn't is it's not like Photoshop. So with Canva, we don't take like a single photo and touch it up and do all that stuff. It's a composite graphic design tool. So instead, we add text and images and animations to a page like you would see on like a social media post. Maybe something like this. We see text boxes and animations, backgrounds, things like that to make a new design, not so much touching up like a single photo that you might have. So that's the type of tool that Canva is. Let me just hide this. And I'll put this away. Okay. So yeah, today's Canva. So we can design everything. I'll show you a quick look of the homepage because we can see kind of the look of all the types of things to give you some ideas. Though again, you can kind of make anything. So this is Canva's homepage when you log in. I am in the free account. I have a paid account, but I'm in a free account just so we can all see, what you can use and not, anything that you'll miss out on. So basically, we, a whole bunch of stuff on the page, but we'll just take a look at a couple things. On the left-hand side is kind of the tabs or the menu of navigating Canva. The main thing you might probably use is going to this projects tab. And in this is going to be, this is just a dummy account to me, so I don't have that many projects, but you can see all the designs that you make, you'll be able to save in Canva, so you can have it as the place that you can re-download them and stuff. You can also see right now that we'll be able to upload custom photos, custom logos, things like that, even videos and actually even sound clips, I believe, to Canva to use in these designs. So, you can add anything to it to customize it. That's kind of the main place, the projects page, anything you've made or in the progress of developing some design. And then the kind of the second main thing, this tiny button up at the top, create a design. We'll go ahead and just take a look at it. Though again, we'll be using that template that I sent out. But when we click on this, we can see a whole list of things to give you ideas of what you can make in Canva. Really, when you click on any, this is not the full list, by the way, but really when you click on any of these, what it's actually doing is just giving you a canvas of a specific height and width. So we can see this is going to be Instagram sized. This is going to be, video size, 920 by 1080 pixels. This will be like a 8.5 by 11 document kind of. This as well. So really you can make anything because we can make a custom size graphic or anything that we might need depending on what you need to upload it to or print it on, anything like that. So that's all that really means. But the second thing that we'll need to think about when we choose one of these blank canvases to begin with is that when we choose one of these, it'll come with hundreds, maybe even thousands of pre-made template designs, sample social media posts, sample, vague videos that you can click on and use and just swap out the content, the text and the photos and edit in any way that you want. So if we clicked on an Instagram post, not only would we get that size canvas to make, but we would also get a whole bunch of templates designed to be posted on Instagram. So social media type designs. If we went down to, and we'll click on this just as an example so we can see what I'm talking about. If we click on resume down this way, we'll get to a blank design, get back to the edit page that we'll be using today. We'll see in the middle is just kind of the canvas itself. We can zoom in. Once we have stuff on the page, we'll be able to click and move things around. But right now, we'll just look at the left-hand side of the page. And on it, the initial tab called Design really just means templates that you can use. And you can see they have a whole bunch. Since I clicked on on making a resume. We see a whole bunch of sample resumes that we can use. We can keep going down. This is just kind of like maybe the ones that people use the most up at the top. If we want to, we could type in anything to find something related to, schools. If I have a educational job and I want to find something with that in mind, I can type that in and find something like that. And then when we find one, we can click on it. And then we have it put on the blank canvas. I'll zoom in a little bit. And then we can kind of see what we'll be building to today. As I mouse around, we see every little box, every little image, piece of text is its own piece of content on the page, its own little box, its own little element. And we can click on it to edit it. We can click and drag it to move it around the page. We can use these handles on the side to resize it. So Canva is quite nice because it's quite a simple tool to get used to, just clicking with the mouse, moving stuff around. And anytime you click on something, you could see, this is a text box. So I have all my text tools pop up at the top if I want to, change it in any way. So that's what we'll get into today, how to, build a whole composite design, how to find all these elements in this side of the page, how to, choose font sizes, do things with photographs, do backgrounds, all that kind of stuff, just to get us going and used to Canva. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this one behind, and we'll hop back into the handout. So we can design anything, social media posts, resumes, logos, infographics, again, choosing that type of design. We can have just still things. So if I just want to make something I'm going to download as like a JPEG, I can do that. If I want to make something that's like maybe a GIF with some slight animations like this design page, actually, we can find animated elements in Canva's pool of stuff that you can use without paying. And we can also add animations. We can upload full videos into this to do a montage of like a video with some text laid on top and things like that, include sound and things. So we can do all types of things like that. Thousands of templates and elements. You can see now that I'm in, I guess this is an Instagram sized design. My design or my templates tab looks slightly different. And you can see, just a mishmash of all these types of things. All these designs you can use. So we can see some of them, videos. So if I added this one as a new page, you can see we have all the stuff on the page. We can change the background video and replace it with something. We can edit the text, all of that good stuff. Let me head up. And we'll talk about that in a second. One thing that we'll talk about now, since we'll just be focusing on the editing today and the creating today, is that this can be a team tool. So you can, in Canva, you can have teams. So you can do it with teams if you have a paid account, I think, and build a whole team and have everybody have like a collective projects page so you can see everybody's and you can all collaborate on the same page. But even if you don't have that, you can click on this share button up at the top, and you can basically give anyone access to this by the email they use with Canva. And you can do a couple things with it. Let me just add an email. So if I want to give this individual, who is me, access to this design, I can give them access so that they can edit it along with me. I can give them, I can also just switch it to view only access. So if I want someone to be able to see my designs, but I want to maintain control of them, I could just do view only. And then comment access is kind of in the middle. That means they can come into my design and they can like put little post-it notes saying like maybe change this, do that. But ultimately it's up to me to affect those changes. So we can do all of those things. And the final last cool thing about having designs shared between teammates and colleagues and things like that is that you can both collaborate on the same design at the same time. So let's see if I Let me see if I can just show you what it looks like. So if I open up a second copy of my design, so I have it open in 2 pages, kind of imitating a colleague being on it at the same time as me, we can see that I'll see my colleague who, Matt, is clicking on this Canva image on the design, editing it. So as I edit it, or as he edits it, we can see live changes. So we can both be doing the same project at the same time. So that's pretty cool as well. So that's that. A couple of details beyond that, but that's kind of the basics. You can take a look into that if you want to use it that way. And then finally, the last thing with the free account, obviously we get some 5 gigabytes of free space. So that's all the images that we upload, all the custom photos and things, any videos, and obviously the designs themselves. We can have 5 gigabytes of all that stuff in the account. So we don't need to make a design, then download it, then keep it someplace. We can always have it in Canva. So then again, we can come back and edit it, change it if we want, without just having a static download to it. Okay. So that's kind of the big background to all the stuff outside the edit page in Canva. But now we'll just go ahead and really focus on the edit page and all the tools and all the elements that we could possibly need kind of this side of the page, all of these options and the stuff in these canvases themselves, just to get a feel of the tools and how to begin making stuff. So just the basics, we'll just add just a basic background to the page so we can get used to this menu. So like I said, anything on the page, we can just click on it to edit it. Since I have nothing on the page, it's just blank white. I just click on the background itself. Up this way, you can see I can click on these different text boxes and elements themselves. But down this way, I'll just click on the background. You can see it's outlined in blue now that I've clicked on it. And as we click on things, we can see my top menu is going to change its options based on what's selected. So if I have nothing selected, this is kind of the options of all the stuff on the page. But as soon as I click on this, I get the option to add a background to the, kind of the back of the page. So I can open my color menu. We see all these options that we could choose. So we can kind of choose one of these at random. We can come into this little box, and then we can use a hex code if you have a specific shade, maybe an exact shade that the company uses in a logo, things like that. So you can do that. You can see that you can do gradients now. So you can do kind of a fade effect if you want. And what's cool also is down this way, anytime I have elements on my page, so maybe a logo, maybe one of the photos that I've uploaded, Canva can automatically pull matching hues and shades from that. So that makes things easy as well. So I don't even need to know, what blue my company needs, my company uses. It can just find it in the image itself. So that's what we can do with backgrounds. We can also, in addition, instead of just making a plain background, we can begin to use kind of the advanced tools on the sides. So I'm just gonna click on this in backspace to delete it basically. And then we can go ahead and take a look and see, we have all these options. We'll take a look at these as we go. Text, draw, apps, lots of advanced fancy things like AI and things now, which we won't look at today. But two that we'll look at right now is we have a whole kind of sub menu just of background type images. So we can come into that. And again, anytime we come into one of these menus, it always just begins with kind of like a random miscellany of images. We can always come up to the top box and ask to find some specific images. That it didn't find any, but maybe we want something slightly bookish. So we can choose this. And then when we click it, it adds it as the background of the page. And again, anything we find, most of the stuff that we find in this side of the page is going to be freely available. Let me come to photos. Photos and background is basically the same thing, but background is a little limited. So if I look up library again in photos, we can see that I find a whole bunch of stuff that I can now use. And you can see now that I add these to the page, I just get kind of like a photo floating on the page. But what I can do is I can click on the photo. You can see I can click and drag to move it around. I can resize it using these handles on all the edges. And one thing that we'll talk about right now is if we want to use any photo as a background, including one that we've uploaded, I can just right click on it. We can see we have all these options in Canva, and one of them is to replace the background. So I can basically take that photo and automatically scale it to fit the size of the canvas that I have. If we want to undo that, we can right click, and then we can detach the image, and then we have a floating image back again. Yeah, the one thing I want to mention now is as you look at these elements and photos on the side in these menus, sometimes you'll see ones that have this little symbol in the item. It says Pro with a little like crown symbol. Those ones, you do need the paid Canva account to use. We can click it and add it to the design, but though it kind of says that it's a paid one. When it comes to when you want to finalize the design and like download it, something like that, we'll see that we get blocked because we have a paid image, so we can't download it unless we buy it, one-time buy it, sign up to Canva Pro, something like that. But we still have thousands of images. You can see we have a couple crowns now and then, but even just looking up one specific type of photo, I have a million options, so I can just choose one that's not one of the crown ones. That's basically the main limitation of the paid against the free account. Is the paid ones, you don't have any limitation in the stuff that you can use. So you can use all the templates, all the photos, all the videos. With the free account, some of them get blocked, so you can't use all of them. But besides that, most of the tools, all the editing tools, will be available to you in the free account. So it's mostly just a content issue, not like a usefulness issue, just using the free account. So that's backgrounds. So we've seen a little bit of this all. So we'll go ahead and keep moving just to keep things flowing. Next, the kind of Canva's kind of two main blocks of stuff. Text and then like images and videos kind of behave the same. So we'll take a look at text to begin with. So you can see I have all this stuff on the page. And as I mouse around, you can see anytime I click on a text box specifically. So when I click on this up at the top, you can see that this is obviously an image. It's just a snapshot that I put on the page. But when I click on heading, I get to text-specific tools up at the top. I can still do the same thing I could with photos by clicking and dragging to move it around and using the sizing handles to change the size kind of just automatically visually. But I can also, let me just move this down a little bit so it's not in the way. I can also click on this, double click to kind of be able to edit the text box, and then you can add text, delete text, do anything you want. We can select some of it to do some specific styling, or we can also just select the whole box like this and then change the whole thing at once. So we can see up at the top, we have all these different font choices that you can use. And again, you can see as I move down a couple fonts that you need the paid Canva to use, but most of the fonts come free with Canva. So you can just, again, find one that looks like one that you might want to use that's a free one. So that's the font. You can also look up a specific font, and you can also just type in like a type of font, like handwriting, fancy, bold, and you'll find all those types of fonts as well. So if I want to do a kind of handwriting one, I can find that easily in Canva. Moving along just to get a full view of all the options we have. We can also change the font size specifically up ahead. So I can click minus and plus to change this way. Same thing as just doing this kind of as a visual sizing. You can see that the font size is changing as I just move it like this that way. So it's up to you how you want to do that. I can, again, select a specific bit, or select the whole text box and change the color of it if I want. So if I want something like that, I can do that. Some of the fonts, depending on the font, won't have like bold and italic styles, but most of them bold, italic, underline. You can automatically switch between like capitals and sentence case if you want. You have the option to change alignment in text boxes if you have a lot of text in it. And then you have things like bullet points and some advanced tools like spacing and all this type of stuff. So, a lot of it's advanced. You won't use all of it, but you can see that Canva really does have basically all the tools to visually affect the text on the page that you might want. The rest of these buttons we'll take a look at in a little bit. Animate and position, we'll definitely get to these as well. So that's editing text that we have on the page. We'll see that we have a whole text menu on the left-hand side of the window. And that's how we can get these fancy text boxes down at the bottom that look, quite fancy down this way. That's how we can find these using the text box. Up at the top, we can just add a blank heading, a blank subheading, and then modify it. But down this way, we can see just kind of this mishmash of cool, fancy font-looking things that you can use as headings and things in social media posts, things like that. Again, some pro, most of them not, and then you can just click to edit it. A lot of these, or actually I should say, all of these you can make homemade if it's paid and you don't want to have a paid account. If you want something that kind of looks like this neon sign and we don't have a paid account, we can just kind of make that homemade, and I'll show you how now. So I can click on my text box, and then we'll go ahead and click on this effects button. So if I click on effects, you can see I already had an effect, so I had a shadow effect on it. And you can see I have all these types of things that I can do. I can hollow it, I can splice it. Within each of these options, you can change, all the specific settings available to it, and tweak it. A lot of customizability within all of these. And then down this way, we can actually see one of the effects. Just a base effect that you can click a button and use is the neon effect. So I can just click on that. I can change it kind of any way that I want. So if I want to make that neon sign that we just saw a moment ago, I basically just have to apply the neon effect and basically choose maybe a type of font that would look kind of like a neon sign. Not going to do that, now. But then you basically can make any of those that we see in this text menu, homemade, that you want. As we click on these, you can see we pop this on the page. We'll go to its effects menu, and then we can see this is just something that someone made homemade. It's just a shadow effect with the yellow background with a specific font choice. So anything that we see in this, again, we can make homemade. We could tweak it once we add it to the page. If I wanted this to be, maybe blue and yellow instead, we can do anything that we want with any of these options. And basically nothing is locked down in Canva. Anything that you add onto the page, you can customize in a million ways if you want. Just click on this and delete it. Let me change this. And yeah, I didn't mention this. We have the size handles. We have two types of size handles. This one, which kind of goes like up and down, and then the ones on the sides basically changes like how long the box is. And that's useful with like text boxes and, the text flowing out of the box, things like that. One last thing that we can see, which we will get to in a little bit, is not only do we have kind of these fancy text boxes with multiple things, but it looks like when we click on these, like this one as an example, it looks somehow like it's like a bunch of text boxes glued into this giant object. We'll see how to make these kind of composite things in a little bit. And the usefulness of being able to do that in a few minutes is that we can affect the whole thing at once. So we can make this whole menu, and then we can resize and move it around the page all at once as one, but still be able to click on an individual text box within it and change it any way that we want. So we'll also get to that. So you can say, even just looking at text, we have a whole bunch of things that we need to get to. So we get caught up on all the things that, got put into the stuff on this page. So that was text, basically half of Canva. The second half is going to be elements, which is basically any type of shape, photo, graphic, animation, that kind of stuff. So on this, we'll go ahead and go to probably the page you'll go to the most, which is called Elements. And Elements is basically all that I just said. It's, and we'll just take a quick look at this. We have lines and shapes. We can edit these, resize them, make them white and black and blue if we want. We have graphics, so like drawing type things. We can see some animated type things, gradients to use as backgrounds. We have these like little badges, these sets of things, so you can have like a matching array of objects on a post or a set of posts. So all that cool stuff. Again, anytime you want to look up a specific type of object, things like that, you can just type it up at the top and you'll be able to find a whole bunch of stuff. And again, a couple pro items only, but most of it, as we can see, is totally free. Anybody can use these, download them, post them on social media, download it as a video and put it on YouTube, anything that you might want. So we have lines and shapes, graphics, things, photos, we saw that previously, videos, same thing, audio clips if you want to add some slight background music to something, and then these we'll get to in a little bit too. So you can see anytime we go to a new set of tools in Canva, always some stuff that we can't even get to in today's basic lesson. So we'll go ahead and just find a basic thing. We'll just find, look, it looks like I found the arrow we already have on the page. So I can add that, just click it, adds it to the design, click and drag to move around, resize it any way that you want. With any type of photo, any type of graphic, we have a whole bunch of new options available to us. So one, you can see this one is flipped from that one. So one of the options with any type of photo is to flip it. So we can flip it any way that we might want, depending on how we want to point. We can crop any of these, so we can, cut out, anything that we might want. Let me do that again. It's not. Okay, well, I'll show you crop in a bit with an actual photo when it would make sense. So we have crop, flip. We do have a couple edit image options, and I'll show you that in a minute too. But this is basically what's available to us. With some of the graphics that we add to a page, we will be able to change it from, its default of white to something else if we want. But with some different things, like let me find something else. With some different things, it's basically just an image. So I can't change this from yellow to blue because we have kind of like two types of images. One that you can like fully edit and one that's basically a fancy photo with some transparent background, which we basically just have to use as is. We can flip it and all that, but this is going to be stuck as yellow and white. That's all that. Even with animated things, we can still move them around, shape them any way that we want. We can still flip them and do anything else that we want. So that's all good too. We can also do this little symbol, which is the transparency symbol. So we can fade it from complete opacity all the way to invisible to, someplace in the middle if you want something kind of faded in the background of a design. something like that. So that's kind of the basic gamut of tools that we have up top, just looking at images. We'll go down this way. Obviously, we saw Canva's elements menu, millions of things in this, but obviously you might want to upload custom photos, custom company logos, kind of anything like that. So we have a uploads menu, and you can see this is my uploads menu. Anything that I upload to Canva in one design is going to be saved and available to me from then on. So if I upload, my company logo, when I open up my Canva account, I'll always have access to it in my uploads to come back and use it again and again. That's good. We can just choose upload files to get to it. We can also just drag and drop a file into Canva to upload it that way. Images, you can upload videos and GIFs, and audio as well if you want to get make a video with sound as well as moving things. Now that we have some actual photographs on the page, some additional photo editing stuff that we can do. We see we have an edit image button. Anytime we click on an image, I'll click on this photo. And they've actually added a lot of these tools. One of the good ones that's really useful, but it's limited to paid accounts, is removing backgrounds. So with something like this company logo, which I uploaded as a JPEG, and JPEGs can't have transparent backgrounds. They have to have a white background. That kind of looks bad. It's not too professional to have all these logos and photos with just, the ugly white background that clashes with the background of the post itself. So with the paid account, you could remove the white background to basically make this, in which you have just the content itself, and you can have it, directly on top of what's behind it instead. When you upload, it's a good idea to upload, save stuff as PNGs, because PNGs can do this type of transparency and opacity. JPEGs have to have the white background. So if you didn't know about that, that'll be helpful to you when uploading stuff. So edit image, remove background if you have a paid account. We do have a couple options. I said in the beginning, you can't do much with just like photoshopping an image itself. But we do still have a couple options. We can do like brightness and contrast, these basic common tools. We have some of these like Instagram type settings that we can apply to any photo, even these logos, we can apply the same thing to it. So we have those options. We have this tool available to us, so we can kind of fade out an image if we want selectively, and we tone that down a little bit. If I just wanted this as like a background image of an Instagram post, maybe this level of, being faded out would be a good idea. So we could fade that out, and that would be good. Apply that. And then we also have some things, let's see. Yeah, lots of settings. One cool one, especially with these like PNGs, I'll kind of expand this so that we can see it. When we have something like this logo, and we might have a slightly busy background, maybe it's something like this, it's kind of difficult to see. But one cool thing that we can do is add like a drop shadow behind it. So I can see my shadows. I have a whole bunch of shadow options. You can see what they look like. Maybe I'll choose this drop shadow option. So you can see it added on a drop shadow. It's still a black shadow. So let me click on the edit controls button of that shadow. And then I can say, I have offset, angle, things like that. Let me change the shadow from black to white. And now we can see it begins to pop out a little bit. Let me maybe change the offset. Let me change maybe this a little bit to get things to pop out. So you can see you can begin to do things to edit these things. Maybe what would be best with that is a glow shadow instead, which is just slightly different. Let me put a white on that. And now we can see it pops out quite well. We can Again, change anything we want, change the size, kind of smooth this out a little bit. That looks pretty good. So we could do that type of stuff as well. So a lot of fine detail controls kind of hidden in Canva. But again, just the basics, uploading anything of your own, you can do that as well. Okay. So now we'll kind of get back to some what sounds like basic things, but a lot of kind of like advanced techniques in what we'll talk about next. So we know now how to select images, elements, text on the page and move them around. So I have a couple boxes on the page, so I can click on one and move it around. But as soon as you begin to make a design, you'll come into the issue of you want to make a slight change and you want to move, this set of boxes up to the top side of the page. And then you kind of have to move them all individually and you lose the exact alignment that you had. So we'll talk a little bit about how to move things automatically, scale things to size, all those types of things. So one thing that I can do is when I want to move a lot of things at once, I can select multiple things at once and then apply mass changes all at the same time. So if I click on this and I want to resize it, you can see I can do that. I can move it by just doing the one. But if I go like this and click and hold down my left click, you see I get a little selection box, and anything that's inside that box when I let go gets selected as a grouping. So now that I have both of these objects in the selection, now I can move both of these at once. I can resize both of them at once as well. So now that we know that, we can see we can just do this, select all of them, move the whole thing up at once, resize the whole thing at the same time, and then we don't lose any of the detail or any of the time that we spent on something, doing something again and again. One additional way to select multiple things at the same time, we'll talk about that in a minute. But something else we'll talk about now, let me move this back down, is that as you click on something and move it around the page, you can see I have all these little lines and things popping up. That's the automatic alignment tools that Canva has built in. So Canva is going to automatically try and show you if the top edge of things and the middle of things line up with things above and below and left and right of it. So that's really useful. That happens with all objects. So if I have this text box and I want to move it back this way, you can see as I put it in the middle, it's automatically showing me, oh, it's in the middle of this second side of the page. It exactly lines up with all of these text boxes beneath it. So those alignment tools really come in handy when you just want to, quickly move something across the page, but still have a little bit of control of exactly how well things line up. So you don't have a finished design that, maybe looks, a little bit off, you didn't quite do it, something like that. We can all do this kind of automatically so things exactly match up and things like that. Couple last hints and advanced tips on this page as well as all the pages, but I'll leave most of those to you to practice when you want. So on this page, we'll practice a couple that skill that we just picked up. So we have a full design. Maybe I went to my design tab and just found this as one of the templates available to me. Maybe I changed the text in the photo to match, my company's half-off sale, but I want to tweak the design a little bit myself. So now we know we can move things across the page, but we can see when I try and do what I just did, try and select these three symbols, these three elements, because I have this object behind them, when I try and click and drag to make one of these little selection boxes, I can't do that because I'm actually already clicking on an object and that gets in the way. So I can't use this to move all of these across the page at once. So a second way to multi-select at the same time is holding down the Shift button. So if I click on this and then I hold down my Shift key, I can then click on something else and as many things as I want to make a whole big group selection. And now you can see, I can kind of see all of these things at the same time. And now I can click and drag to move them any place I want across the page. So I can move them all at once. I can change the size of it if I want and keep moving it all at once in one grouping. So that's something else that we can do. We'll notice yet again, something else we'll find out in a couple slides down the page is as we have so many things on the page, you can see a couple of these elements kind of get positioned behind this photograph. So we'll see how to kind of stack up to say what goes on top, what goes below, and things like that in a second. So I can put these back. And yeah, you can see you can do this and things like that. Again, it's all just basic tools, but if you want to get good at Canva and you want to begin using it, maybe professionally to make social media posts with a company, things like that, you'll want to, begin to, use all these tools and get used to them, out of the gate. So down this way, we'll talk about, again, just sounds simple, but just moving a lot of stuff at once. We can see I have this little collection of elements on this page. Say I want to do anything I want to them all at once. We know how to do that. So I can group select them, move them down the page, resize them. Didn't mention this, but we always have a rotate handle. So I can choose on this little symbol to kind of spin it any way that I want. And then I can, move it this way. But then we run into an issue of now that it's behind a bunch of stuff, when I try and group select that again, I'm moving a lot of stuff because it's all stacked up on top of one another. So it's going to be difficult to kind of treat this as one thing when you have a whole bunch of stuff kind of mixed in with it. So one thing that we can do is, ahead of moving this on top of a bunch of different stuff, is select all of it like we know how now. Just left click and select all of it. And you can see it's a whole bunch of stuff. It's this little Wi-Fi symbol. It's a phone. It's a piece of text. It's a box. It's a second box to provide the shadow. It's a hand. So it's actually a lot of stuff going on in this little design. So we can just select all of it. And then automatically popping up is this little group box button. We can go ahead and click on that, and you can just see it kind of blinked. And now Canva is basically going to think of this collection of 6, 7 elements as a single thing now. So now I can unclick, and as soon as I click back, it kind of is automatically viewing it as one big thing. I can move it this way. And when I want to move the whole thing back, even though it's mixed in with a bunch of stuff, I just had to find one little spot on the page that's just touching, one side of that element. And then I can pull everything back with me like that. So that's how you group things in Canva. You can see the same thing down this way. I have a little design with, some dates and some events. And this too, we can see how to ungroup things. So this is all one big thing. If I ungroup it, we can see it kind of becomes a dozen objects at once. So you can see how, how quickly you can stack up designs with a whole bunch of elements at once. So as you begin to make, pieces of content on the page that should be treated as one, good idea to just group them, and then you can do stuff to them in total. You can apply any of these changes up at the top to them at once. So if you want to do this, it's going to apply to all of it at once. So that's going to be grouping. Okay. So locking elements. So we just saw a second ago, we had this. If we put it this way, and then we try and grab onto it, we get stuff in the way when we, maybe we grab the background of the page by accident when we actually wanted just this little phone design. So one thing that we can do when we make designs is if we have stuff that's kind of background of the page, we don't want it to get in the way of me trying to select on things. Like if I'm trying to, select, this school thing, but I accidentally click on these white lines behind it. As we stack up things, it can get kind of difficult to navigate all the stacked up elements. So one thing that we can do is anytime we select something, we can see this selection I just made is a group of just individual lines stacked up. So that's how we made that. But we always have the option of locking things. So I can click on this. I see all of my options up at the top. And one of them is going to be this little lock symbol. And as I lock that, we can see what happens is if I try to select it again, and in this case, I'm just selecting everything on the page, anything that's locked on the page can't get selected at this point. So I can lock down those lines. I could find this little notepad, lock that down too. Let me go ahead and click on all of these, again, using my shift. Oops. Let me just do a couple at once. I can click on these. I can lock those. And now you can see as you want to go into the page and change a bunch of things, a lot of that stuff now will just kind of be in the background. It's not going to get in the way of selecting things, resizing, things like that. So you can do that with all the background stuff that you have. And then if you want to change something, you just click on it individually. You can see I can't do anything to it. I can't click and drag it. I can't resize it. But then I can just click the unlock button. And as soon as I do that, I can grab onto something again. So that's really helpful when you have these busy pages and you just want to focus on like the topmost elements and pieces of text. Lock all that stuff down behind it so it's not getting in the way. Let's see. Yeah, one last thing that I should mention, along with like locking and grouping, I'll go back up, is anytime you have a grouped object, I'll go ahead and like use this one as an example. This whole thing is oops. This is, one big thing. I missed the Monday, but you can see this is one big object. But even though it's a group thing and you've kind of glued it into one big composite thing, you can still come in and edit specific things by themselves. I can come in and still change the text box. I can double click on this to change the date. I can click on this specific white box within it to change that to something else. So I just wanted to touch on that quickly. Even though it's grouped and kind of locked as a unit, you can still kind of select within the selection to change an individual component of it at once if you want. Okay. So next we'll talk about positioning. So we've come into this problem a couple of times now. We have a whole bunch of stuff on the page, back up this way. And if we try to move things on the page, well, some things automatically get, put behind some things, on top of some things. How do we change that? How do we control that? So that's going to be with the position tool. So you can see this is the, kind of design that I want to make. These two little web windows with the text box on top and a mouse. How can we change this one below it to match it? We can come in and we can select on the pink window, but nothing we can do right now puts it on top of the green window. But position is one of the options up at the top menu with basically anything that you click on. So I can click on position, and then you can see we get all of these options. We'll just focus on these up at the top. So we could say bump it up one level, and I can keep bumping it up one level like that. And I can also bump down one level at a time like that. And you can also just use these two to push it all the way up to the top and all the way back down to the bottom that way. So we can use that. You can see this mouse hidden behind stuff. So I can click on this mouse, go back to my position tab, bump it up as many times as I need. Then we can see we've actually lost the welcome text because now it's so behind things, so many things that we can't even see it. So one way that we can get back to it, is if it's in the handout on the left-hand side. If I begin to click, I can use my control key. I can hold my control key and then I can keep clicking. And you can see each time I click, it's going to select the thing below the thing on top. So I selected the pink box, hold down my control key, click again. It's actually going to select the green box because it's below the pink box. And then I can do that again. Canva is just being a little slow at the moment. And then finally, we can see, I see the outline of my welcome text, but I can't, do anything to it. So only get that. And then let me bump it up like this and get to it like that. Again, that's a bit of an advanced tool. You might only need that on occasion or if you use Canva heavily, but I just wanted to include it so you could have it available. And again, so that you could see that, Canva is quite an amazing tool. It kind of has everything that you might need. And, it's not really skimpy on the details and usability of doing anything that you might want. That's one half of positioning tools, just moving things up and down. Position also has a second use, and that's when you have multiple things and you want to position them relative to that group of things. So I'll give you an example. This welcome text is exactly in the middle of this pink window behind it. It's exactly in the middle, up and down and left and right. This one's a little off to the side. We can even move it down this way a little bit. One thing that we could do is to try and eyeball it. We could eyeball it. We could also use these little automatic grid lines that pop up to kind of show me that I'm matched up like that. But we also have the automatic position tool to do it automatically without any of that, fidgeting around. So what I can do is I will select my welcome text. I will also select my pink window by holding Shift and clicking that. So you can see I have two things selected. Let me go to my position tab. And then you can see instead of moving it up and down, let's align elements relative to all the elements that I have selected. So if I click middle, you can see it's going to put them all on the same middle line. And then when I click on this one, it's going to put them on the same invisible line up and down. And you can see you have all the available options. You could put it at the top, top left if you want, all the way down to the bottom right. So it's going to do all this automatic alignment that you might want. A lot of stuff that you can do with position if you have like a whole bunch of stuff on the page. Like as one example, this thing of grid lines, instead of making 20 white lines and then automatically manually spacing them all out individually, position is one way that you could automatically get that lined up easily. So let me show you what I mean. Let me just unlock this real quick. Okay, so we'll move this stuff, move this back. Let me ungroup them. And then you can see, we have all these individual lines. Maybe I put them on the page one by one, and I kind of had them like sloppily lined up kind of like this, a little bit off now and then, but I want them all evenly spaced, things like that. So what I can do is I can select all of them like this. And then again, I'll come back to my position. And instead of the top ones, moving it up and down, instead of this one aligning it, though I can use these if I want, but sometimes it acts a bit wonky. It's useful this way to line them all up and down, but I want to be able to space these out evenly. So that's this space evenly set of options down below. So the easiest way you can test out each of these, but if I just click on tidy up, it's going to automatically evenly space them all out, line them up evenly, up and down, left and right, like that. So you can see what we just did by using the tidy up option. Again, a bit advanced, but just so you know about it. Okay. Okay, so we have run a bit past time. I'll keep going, but if you need to drop off, you can. But I do want to wrap up, all the basic stuff. So I'll just keep going if you can hang out. So we did choose a template at the beginning. So again, we begin with this. If you go to design, you can choose any of the pre-built designs that they have. Like that. So templates pretty easy to get a hold of. Once you like have a template, like maybe we found, this left-hand side of the page, someplace in templates, we got all of these symbols and these elements on the page, but it's like salmon pink, and we want to, maybe change it to be like blue and yellow to match my company, things like that. So obviously on any of these individual elements, I can click on them and you can see they all have an individual palette that you can change. So I can come in and change this all individually if I want. But if I want all of these on the page to match up, we do have an easy way of doing that, actually. So I can come in and I'm going to click on this. And maybe I'll choose this blue. And anytime we change something, we see we have this change all option at the bottom. If I click on that, that one's a little bit difficult to see. I'll do it again with the second one. Maybe if I change this one to yellow, if I click the change all again, it's going to take any element on the page that was that same, pinkish, salmony pink to begin with, and change it to the yellow at the same time. So if I have like matching elements on the page and I want to change all of them at once, I can use this change all button to keep doing that as well. You can do that with like text. So if I change a specific text box to Times New Roman font, click change all, and it's going to find all the text boxes and update them from the old font to the new one, kind of anything like that. That's how we can change things custom. We also have, let's see. What happened to my... hang on one second. They may have updated Canva and taken away something. Yeah, I think unless I can't find it, it looks like they took away one thing. Yeah, I guess they took it away. So we won't talk about the styles tab, which they used to have, but we know how to change things automatically now. This one we'll do real quick. This is just a type of element on the page. So I'm going to come to my elements, and I'm going to come down until I see frames, and you can see they all kind of look the same. And what this is, I'll choose maybe like this one, put it on my page. Let me position it to the top so we can see it. And what it is, it's a kind of an element with, some design to it. Let me make this blue so we can see. It's exactly what it says. It's a frame. So if I have a custom photo or a photo I find in Canva, I can take an image that I have and pop it into that frame, and it's going to fit that frame like that. So that's quite a neat thing to have. They have like cell phones. They have things, like this. Same thing as with background images. If I want to take the photo out of that frame, I can just right click and detach, and then I can pop it into the new one like this. So frames is just, pretty cool. You can play around with that. Have some examples, down this way. Drop shadows, I'll show you that real quick. So we saw with some things you can add a drop shadow to them automatically. Like I'll go back up to remind us that when we had a custom logo like this, like a PNG, we could add a custom shadow by going to edit image and using the shadows tab. But some things don't have that automatic option. So you can see if I want to like make this little date book element, you can see it's white on white. But you can see when I go to edit image, I don't have the shadows option. So I could, change the white, to something else that would, stand out. but we can also make it stand out by adding a custom drop shadow to that. And I'll show that to you just as an example of combining a couple tools all in one. So I'll show you what it really is. So this one has a custom drop shadow. You can see it looks, pretty nice with this, pretty design. And you can see it's actually a grouped element. So if I ungroup it, you can see what this element is. It's the element itself. And then it's a second copy of the element behind it, basically. And it basically stacked up and offset a little bit to kind of make an illusion of a shadow. And then I just grouped them so I could use them at the same time. So we can do the same thing with this. So let's go ahead and I'll Control-C, Control-V to copy and paste. Obviously, we have copy and paste. We also, I haven't mentioned, have like undo and redo, Control-Z, Control-Y, things like that. Then we make a copy, paste it on the page. Let me click on my copy, and I'm just going to come in and maybe just make the whole thing jet black. Let me come into my transparency option, and then I can fade this down a whole bunch, like maybe to, about 50. We can see we basically have it now. Let's go ahead and click on the shadow and position it back like this. Maybe let's drop the shadow a tiny bit extra. So let me keep going down. That looks about nice. And then I'll just select both of these. Control-G / just use the group button to put them as one. And now we have a nice little drop shadow that we can add to anything that we want custom. So we can do that with images. With things like text, shadows, you can always do that with an effect. So I always have the shadow effect. So I can always come in and put a shadow on this. That helps a little bit with the kind of grayish background of the little chalk photo. So that we always have, but we can do this way. We have a whole bunch of tools and elements to make homemade, graphics and graphs and things like that with actual data in them. So you can see in Elements, I have this menu. And you can see I have all these options of making, infographic type things, line graphs, all this type of good stuff. And as I add it to the page, you can see it's not just like a stock image of a graph. We actually get a mini table that we can put custom data in, add new columns, add new rows, add labels. I can click and move it around the page. I can change anything that I want with it, change the spacing. So again, we won't get too much into that. But if you want to make a social media post about like, any type of, quantitative data, you can come to this tab of Elements and add a whole bunch of stuff. One thing that I'll mention and kind of go off on a tangent real quick is if you want to make a new design and see a whole bunch of that good infographic stuff, come to Make a Design. Let's type in infographic so you can see all these options. Again, basically the size of it. But when I click on one, we can see, since I've chosen this kind of tall, skinny infographic type design, all of my templates, all of my designs available to me will be infographic specific. So if you want to make one of those, it's a good idea to begin in the infographic size canvas. And then you can basically come in, say you need like a timeline type thing, choose, one of these options, zoom in, you have the whole thing set up. And then now that we knew all the tools, we can see how it's made. We can customize, anything that we want, change the text, add a couple elements if we want, take away a couple. So infographic is quite cool in Canva as well. Okay. And then the last thing we'll talk about real quick is animating. The whole animating stuff in Canva could be a whole class of its own. You can animate stuff. You can also just have when you go to the homepage, you can make a video type design, and then you'll say from the get-go that you want to make a video, And then you have a couple additional options like when I have multiple, slides of my video, you have like transition options that can go from slide to slide. It's not really showing them because I'm white on white, but that's something you could check out as well. And that's quite cool. But today we'll just look at basic animations. So we'll go ahead and anytime you click on anything, an element, piece of text, anything on the page, click on it. Always one of the options that you'll have is this little animate button. So I'm going to click on this group of things, the message bubble and the text itself. Click on animate. We can see this is all the types of animations that we have. As we kind of mouse on top of them, it shows an example of what it looks like. So maybe this one, maybe we'll choose this one. It's going to pan in. Couple options with all of these. We can say when the video begins, we want it to pan in, and we want it to pan out when the video ends. But we can also just say just pan in on the beginning. You can see paid only accounts. You can change how fast it moves in or how slow, and maybe change it from pan to the left and pan to the right. You can get the paid account if you really want to go crazy with video animating. So we can do that. And then we can keep going. So we can choose, this is a group thing. So maybe instead of panning in the whole thing, let's animate just the text itself. So this is a group thing. So instead of choosing the whole thing, I'm just going to choose that text box itself, and I'll go to animate. We can see when we have just a text box selected, we have some new options available to us. So maybe I want, this kind of typing effect. So I'll click on that. This is what my thing is going to look like when I finish and download it. Let's go ahead and, do the same thing to the next one. So let's animate that. We'll do the same thing, pan in, and we can see, the last thing I want to kind of mention is this one doesn't look the same as the one above. The top one that says, hey, want to grab coffee, that's just the message bubble and just the text by itself. We can see on this one, it's kind of, we can see the text box with the text box is made of multiple things. So I have a text box, I have this little triangle to make it look like a bubble, and then I have the shadow that was put beneath it. So when I try to animate this group of things, it's animating kind of each one individually, so not all the components line up exactly. So when we want to do animating, usually it's a good idea to group everything that we want in one. So I'm going to group this. And now when I come in, select it and animate, now it's going to pan in all at once as a collective like that. Now it's going to look nice. It's going to match the one above it. I can come back in, click on this and animate just the text again. And then we can keep going down. We can add as many animations as we want. And then we get a nice little moving social media post, things like that, or a whole video if you want. Animations on each page, transition page to page, as much as you want. So we talked about this at the beginning. So again, you can make teams. If you have a paid account, you can really make the big teams with lots of colleagues and a kind of a group project bin that you can see everybody's stuff. But if you don't, you can just add people individually by the email they used, and you can give them edit access, view access, anything that you want. And then you can be live on the same page at the same time. Let me mention up in the top, ahead of getting to this slide, this is how we can give people access. This is also how we can download it. If I want to download it as a video, since this has animations, that might make sense. Download it as just a photo, JPEG, PNG, PDF, GIF. If you just have, maybe one Instagram post with no sound and it's just like one little animation, maybe you download it as a GIF instead of a full video. That's an option. So that's how we download it. We can see, obviously this design, this Instagram post is, 21 pages, but when you download, you can say, I just want to select and download, page 1 and 2 as its own little download. So you have all these options as you go in, change the quality with this little tool if you have the paid account, and download that. And then you can also, if you have the paid account, link Facebook, Instagram, things like that. And then directly from Canva, you can push these designs and actually schedule them to say, this design I just made, I'm not going to be in the office next week, but automatically post this one on Monday, this one on Tuesday, and so on. So that you can use as well. So it's all in one. You don't need like a separate scheduling tool. You don't need to pay attention to the clock and post things when you need to. So that's all in that box. Last thing we'll say is that obviously we've seen the difference between the free and the paid account. When we got to the end, we saw a couple of things paid only that seemed quite attractive, but most of the time it's just a little bit less content you can use with the free account. But if you happen to be, if you teach, if you're a student like out of college or something, or even high school, I think, or you have a job at a nonprofit, you can apply to Canva's Nonprofits and Education edition. The link is in this. So you can see I have the link in this and the link in this. To get to that page, sign up, request permission, kind of prove that you teach, something like that. And then you get the totally free paid account without paying. And not only that, but you can have like 10 people on the team. When I applied to the Canva Nonprofits Edition with this job, I not only got the free account from that, but I got like 10 teammates that I could invite with me who would also get full access to the Pro Canva without paying as well. So if that fits you, that'd be a good idea to apply and see if they'll give you access. Okay, yep. So I know we ran a little bit long on time, but I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, you can always let me know.